So I've been up here earlier. I'm Tina. And I don't need to convince anyone here that MediaWiki is really cool, but I keep having to convince people that I interact with elsewhere where I seem to spew wikis. And I keep thinking of different analogies to talk about wikis. And a little while ago, I realized that wikis are really a lot like math. And why is that so? Also, when you first start in school, it's arithmetic. You have some adding and some subtracting and some dividing and some multiplying, and that's really all what you do with basic documents. Like if you just have your Word document, you're writing it, you may delete some stuff in it, you may delete the whole thing, you may make save another copy of it, you may decide to use it in multiple documents, and that's sort of your arithmetic. And that's kind of your end of grade 3, and that's where a lot of people end with their documentation. That's what documentation should be, single documents. But really, when you think of it as using a wiki, you also have algebra. Like after grade 3, you should be learning that, and you have things like functions and variables. And MediaWiki adds that because you have templates and you have parameters for your templates. So instead of having to rewrite something repeatedly, you can use it, or you can say, I want this to look slightly different depending on what kind of parameters you give it, which is really kind of like algebra. But you still don't stop there, and a little while later, you learn calculus. So there you have things like differential calculus, where you're dealing with continuous change. And that's really actually kind of super important for documentation. And a lot of people think of documentation as a project that we need to do and get done, and now we're done with documentation, we can print it, like Mark likes to print things, and put it on a shelf, and we're done with documentation. But it's really super important that you are able to change it. So yeah, of course, that's one of the main things MediaWiki or wikis do. It allows you to change things. But they also allow you to keep track of the change with things like page history, or recent changes, or watches. And you're able to see all of the different changes that you're making in diffs. So that's kind of cool. But then you also have this is really huge, much bigger than it was on mine. Yeah, don't worry about it. What is the other side of calculus? You have differential and integral calculus. Thank you. So, and with that, you're looking at things, you're aggregating them, you're summing things up. So MediaWiki gives you stuff for that too, either out of the box just by being able to see how many pages do you have on here, or by using any of the various data extensions to allow you to do things like counting stuff that is in different pages that you have and that you have encoded to be able to aggregate it. But you also have statistics. So you have the ability to deal with collecting and organizing and representing data, and Cargo and Semantic MediaWiki gives you some of that. Some of the stuff out of the box is available that allows you to show how many pages you have. Sorry, and Cargo and Semantic MediaWiki also allow you to show things like graphs or pie charts or however you want to represent them. And you also have a bit of graph theory, of course, and that's more going back to, hey, you can write this stuff as hypertext, which is really powerful because you can break it down and make it not one big monolithic thing. And built out of the box, it gives you things like what are the most linked pages, what are the orphans, what are the oldest pages, those kinds of things. And it makes it able to deal with like concepts like every page is page 1, where you don't know where you're going to arrive, and wherever you arrive on your wiki, you should be able to allow people to get to any other bit of your data. So rather than having a keyword find in another document, you have a better reason to think early, where will people find my stuff, and how do I make sure that they can find the rest of the information that they need to know. And then you have a little bit of set theory, like you have categories, of course, but you also have the ability to if you have Cargo, you can say, I want everything that is red and not round. So that's kind of that side of things. Now, I'm actually not all that happy. These just came up because I was trying to give people reasons that MediaWiki is a good thing. But the more I'm hearing about stuff that people are doing with this, the more I also realize you can connect these things and use them in different ways. To me, like some of the stuff that, like the idea of using a graph to represent recent changes was just like, that's crazy, right? So just like math, you also have this portion of the more you know, the more you're gonna use it, and the more you can do with it. So my problem though is this is actually a terrible thing to tell people, because most people, if I tell them MediaWikis are a bit like math, they're like, oh, that's a bad thing. They say, yeah, they're kind of like calculus, and they'll go like, okay, we won't use this thing then. So it actually is a complete failure for what I was trying to do with it. But again, with this thing here, people have also shown me some other stuff that they like. The three things that I'll take away as analogies already are spreadsheet for the internet, Swiss Army knife for the internet, and an interesting, powerful one I wouldn't have thought about is what Ward said earlier about telling how it feels, not how it works. That's going to be hard for me. I don't think that way, but I think that might just be the trick on getting someone else to want to try it out. But since I'm sure all of you have also tried to convince people that MediaWikis are a good thing, I'm always interested to hear more about like what were the little like the elevator pitch size pieces that have actually got through to people. So that's really all I was going to talk about.